Okay, so this is the Bible study for January 3rd, 2020, continuing our fulfilled series in the Gospel of John. And it's John chapter 1, verses 43 through 51. And remember that you can follow along with us by downloading PDF copies of the Bible study at www.abqnaz.org/alive. And the text says, the next day, Jesus decided to leave for Galilee. Finding Philip, he said to him, follow me. Philip, like Andrew and Peter, was from the town of Bethsaida. Philip found Nathanael and told him, we have found the one Moses wrote about in the law, and about whom the prophets also wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. Nazareth? Can anything good come from there? Nathanael asked. Come and see, said Philip. When Jesus saw Nathanael approaching, he said to him, here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. How do you know me? Nathanael asked. Jesus answered, I saw you while you were still under the fig tree before Philip called you. Then Nathanael declared, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus said, you believe because I told you I saw you under a fig tree. You will see greater things than that. He then added, very truly I tell you, we will see heaven, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. So number one says, what did Jesus say to Philip in verse 43? A, this is the plan. B, I want you to. C, follow me. So it's always, for me, such a kind of profound thought that Jesus does not give all the information up front. But his call is for Philip in particular, but I think for all of us to follow him, even if we don't have all the information up front. And he doesn't tell us always. I always get a kick out of it because when we're going through the process toward ordination, all the pastors like to ask questions about the individual's call and what they might be called to do in the future. And a lot of times the answer is, I don't know. I'm still trying to understand where this is all going. And we all know that's going to be the answer because that was the answer for us. But we'd all like to have the answer in advance, wouldn't we? Wouldn't we all like for God to tell us, hey, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to pastor this church, and then you're going to pastor that church, and then you're going to have some kind of a superintendent role, and you're going to teach, at a university, and we want it all to be lined out for us on what it would look like for us to follow Jesus. And perhaps that's for a pastor, but as lay people, we want to hear, follow me, and this is the spouse I'm going to provide for you, and this is the way your family is going to look, and this is the way life's going to go because you followed me. But it doesn't work that way. We're walking with him and learning as we go, and therefore often we don't know the end of the story, and we don't have even enough information to take more than the next step. And that's what it looks like to follow Jesus. Number two, how do you feel about following somebody when you don't know where they are going, how they're going to get there, or why? I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like following somebody when I don't know where we're going. It really bugs me. My kids call from the other room, Dad, come here. No, you come here. Um, I'm the old one. I'm the one sitting on the couch that can't get out of the couch right now. You come here. No, I want to show you this. Okay. I want to know before I walk down the hall and get my butt off the couch that that's going to be worth me seeing. And maybe I'm being blunt there, but that's just the way I feel. That's the way it is. And we all know that we walk down the hall for our kids to show us something stupid that we can't even believe, like that they thought it was so exciting. Some YouTube video, by the way, that they could brought it down here to us just as easily. Um, but we want to know, why am I going? Where are we going? What's this all about? We want to know that before we get up and go. And so it is, I think, so profound to us to think about these disciples following without knowing, and the fact that Jesus also would ask us to follow without knowing the whole story at the beginning. Um, Number three, why, according to verse 45, did Philip follow? A, because Jesus was the Messiah. B, because he trusted that Jesus was the one who would bring him salvation. C, because he trusted the God who promised to send the Savior. So Philip found Nathanael and told him, "We have found the one Moses wrote about in the law and about whom the prophets also wrote." So I believe it's all of these. He recognized Jesus as the Messiah. That's why he was following. He trusted that Jesus was the one that would bring him salvation. But more than that, he trusted the God who made the promise. So there was no question that Moses and the prophets wrote about somebody that was to come. They just didn't know who he was. And so when they believed they had found him, what's interesting about this in the Gospel of John is that in a lot of the other Gospels, as we follow the story, it seems like the disciples they really don't know fully who Jesus is. But John paints the picture of a group of disciples that follow because from the beginning they believed that this was the Messiah. And that was the reason they were following to begin with. And and so I think that's a pretty significant thought. Um, Number four asks, why do we struggle to follow? I think we struggle to follow because perhaps we don't believe that Jesus is really the Messiah. Perhaps we don't trust that Jesus really is going to bring us salvation. Um, Perhaps we don't trust that God will send us a Savior at all. And so we struggle to follow, um, and believe all of these things. And we don't say we do. We never say, "Oh no, I believe in Jesus and everything." But really, ultimately, if we believe in Jesus and we believe that he is who he says he is, that he is the Messiah that God was going to send, if we believe all those things, then there should be nothing else that comes in the way of us following. So whatever excuse we're about to make up when we say, "No, I believe in Jesus," it's just that. Um, those things should be easily overcame if we really believe that Jesus was the Messiah that would bring us salvation by following him. Number five, what was Philip's response other than to follow, according to verse 45? Um, so in verse 45, it says, Philip found Nathanael and told him. So we saw this in Andrew, and now we see this in Philip, that Philip goes to find Nathanael and tells him that they found. So this seems to be the natural response of the disciple, um, who really believes that he's the Messiah, is to go and find somebody else they know that has been waiting for the Messiah too, that needs the Messiah too, that would be interested in following the Messiah too, and tell them, "We found the Messiah." Number six asks, did Nathanael believe when Philip told him that he had found the Messiah? A, yes, he always believed everything people told him. Most people are not that way. So I think we can assume Nathaniel was not that way. B, he must have because he came to see Jesus. C, he seemed skeptical because Jesus was from Nazareth. So this is where we find this verse in verse 46. Nazareth, can anything good come from there? So Nathaniel's first response isn't awesome, the Messiah, I'll be right there. It's Nazareth. Nothing good comes out of Nazareth. That can't be right. This can't really be the Messiah. Um, and yet, Philip says, come and see. And basically, he says, you won't question where he came from once you've seen him, once you've heard him speak. Um, and so there does seem to be some skepticism. Nathaniel doesn't seem to be the type of person that believed everything that was said, but he did believe enough to come and see. Number 7, have you ever doubted Christ when he didn't show up in the way that you expected? So in this particular case, he shows up in the form of a person from Nazareth, where nothing good can come from there. And so that wasn't how they expected him. There's all sorts of ways that Jesus showed up that wasn't how they expected him. And occasionally, Christ does not show up in our life how we expected him. Now, there's a couple responses. I think most of us would like to say that um, we trust and we are patient and we go through the process even when we can't figure it out. But the truth is that many of us have probably doubted at that moment when he did not come the way we expected him to come. Number 8 says, what did Jesus say to Nathanael when he came to him, according to verses 47 and 48? A, he tried to convince him he was the Messiah that was spoken about by the prophets. He doesn't seem to do that. B, he told Nathanael about Nathanael's own character. So when he walks up, he says, here truly is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. Now, um, I think that sounds like a great compliment, but when you hear Nathaniel's reaction when he was told about Jesus and when he was told that he was from Nazareth, and his immediate reaction was Nazareth, can anything good come from there? Let me just tell you that I'm not always sure that being declared someone in whom is found no deceit is that's not always a good thing. That's somebody who speaks what goes through their head without a filter, is what's going on there. They just say it out loud. I'm thinking about we've been watching through all the Star Treks, and some of the newer Star Treks have this Romulan order of people that are devoted to absolute candor, which means they say whatever is true, even if it hurts feelings. And when I think about that, I think I know a few people like that. I may be accused of being that person sometimes. But I can tell you this, when Jesus says, here's a guy that tells the truth, even when it hurts. Here's a guy that says what's in his head, even when his friends hate him afterwards. Here's a guy who says whatever is just going to come out of his mouth and is going to be the honest truth, but it's not winning him any friends. Um, and so I think that we could interpret Jesus's statement as sort of um, as a compliment. We all want to be thought of as honest and with no deceit. But at the same time, I think what we see in verse 46 about Nathaniel tells us enough to know that this is a guy that was probably known for saying things that ultimately maybe didn't win him friends because he just said what was in his head. And it was just all honest and transparent. But socially, that's not always the best policy. Um, we all we all know when your wife asks if the dress makes her look fat, that honesty may not be the best policy in that moment. Um, and so we can look at this situation and say, I'm not sure that was a compliment, but it was an identifying characteristic. So Jesus's greeting declared Nathaniel's character out in front of everybody. See, he pointed out what he had done before he came. So he says, Nathaniel, I saw you when you were sitting on the fig tree before Philip called you. Um, and that was um, an interesting, that was compelling to him. It made him believe that this really was the guy. Um, by the way, the woman at the well, when Jesus um, told her about all that she'd ever done, that was compelling to her too, that this really was the Messiah. D, I'm pretty sure that this is a sideways compliment. So going back to the person in whom is no deceit, I'm pretty sure that was a sideways compliment. But Jesus tells him enough that he also now believes. Um, Now, number 9, does Jesus still do this with us? I do believe he does. I believe he tells us about our character. I believe he reminds us of the places that he saw us before we even came, before we even chose to follow. And I believe that when he tells us about our character, that sometimes it stings, and we know that he is who he says he is in that moment also. And that's one of the most profound ways in which we choose to believe and follow, is that he tells us things about ourselves that no one else could know. Number 10, what does Jesus tell Nathaniel after he believed? Jesus seemed kind of unimpressed with Nathaniel's belief, and that's true. He says, "You believe because I told you I saw you under the fig tree. That's no big deal. Well, that's what it takes to make you believe." B, he basically told him it didn't take much to get him to believe. C, he told him that he would see far greater things than this simple little thing. And he says that he says, you will see greater things than that. Very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven open and angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. D, he says he would see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. 11, how has your faith grown recently through the things that Jesus has done? So there's the simple things that Jesus did to call you to himself initially, but there should be things constantly that Jesus is doing that shows you once again that he is who he says he is. What kinds of things is he saying to you now? What kinds of things is he doing in your life to help you grow?